And when she lies in state, she'll be guarded, like royals before her, by what is known as the Vigil of the Princes, her sons and grandsons in uniform taking their turn in the chamber. This will indeed be a time when a much-loved sovereign will be farewelled with pomp and great pageantry, while a new sovereign will be welcomed with all of Britain's age-old traditions.
Yeah, it'll be all that morning. Thank you so much for being with us throughout the morning.
Our special coverage continues now.
That my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service.
I did but see her passing by, and yet I love her till I die.
Better days will return. We will meet again.
Live across Australia, this is a special edition of Today, the death of Queen Elizabeth II.
Good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of Today. We are bringing you the sad news that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Britain's longest serving monarch, has died, aged 96. This is how the news unfolded. At 9:30 last night on Australia's east coast, 12:30 p.m. in the UK, the palace issued this statement. Following further evaluation this morning, the Queen's doctors are concerned for Her Majesty's health and have recommended she remain under medical supervision. The Queen remains comfortable and at Balmoral.
The royal family raced to be by her side. Prince William and Andrew flying into Scotland. Charles, Camilla and Anne were already there. The media watched on as cars carrying members of the royal family sped to Balmoral, signalling the truth we didn't want to hear. Prince Harry was also seen arriving in Scotland separately as the news of his grandmother's death reverberated around the world.
At 3:30 a.m, the palace released this statement. The Queen died peacefully at Balmoral. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow.
And half an hour later, this from King Charles III. The death of my beloved mother, Her Majesty the Queen, is a moment of great sadness for me and all members of my family. We mourn profoundly the passing of a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother. I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world. During this period of mourning and change, my family and I will be comforted and sustained by our knowledge of the respect and deep affection in which the Queen was so widely held.
Now, it was only on Tuesday that we saw the Queen greeting the new British Prime Minister at Balmoral. Barely 3 days later, Liz Truss spoke of her passing.
The death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world. Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built. Our country has grown and flourished under her reign. Britain is the great country it is today because of her.
Echoing that, the United Kingdom is in shock this morning. We are all mourning the loss of an exceptional woman who lived an extraordinary life of service, 70 years of unbroken service. It is something Britons have never seen before. She is the second longest serving monarch of a sovereign realm.
Well, that's it. Louis XIV was the only one who pipped her at the post there by 72 years. But it is something that, you know, we've all woken up to this morning, and it is strange to consider the fact that somebody who's been a part of our lives, a part of our history, felt like a part of our furniture here in Australia as well, is no longer there. And it's going to take us a while, I think, to really comprehend that. No matter how frail and old she did seem at the end, she still was working and seemed quite sprightly, Jane.
And 9 out of 10 Australians have only ever known her as our head of state. It is incredible to think that, you know, our lives, our children's lives, our parents' lives have all revolved around her service. And it would mean that people only in their late 70s, 80s and 90s would remember a time when she wasn't the head of state.
I think her contribution to public life cannot be overestimated at this stage. She has been an extraordinarily stoic monarch, and that is reflected in the reactions that we are seeing around the world this morning. We have a live shot for you of Buckingham Palace as we go to air right now. It is the middle of the night there in London right now, but thousands have been gathering overnight in shock and in disbelief to pay their respects. And while there has been a very solemn mood, there has also been one of great celebration in a sense, celebrating an extraordinary life and a great era of service as well. Here are a few comments from earlier this evening.
It's one of them things you never believe going to happen. It's quite upsetting, really. You know, just that feeling in your stomach, you don't really know what to say. So, just can't really believe it, to be honest, because she's been obviously Queen my whole life.
I thought she was fantastic and, like I said, a role model for everybody and never put a foot wrong, did she?
She's like a really remarkable figure. You know, she's been leader of this country for so many decades. It's really longer than a lot of people have been alive. So, yeah, I mean, she's been sort of a constant in a lot of people's lives in this country and all around the world. So, yeah, I mean, it's a very sad day.
You can see it's starting to be quite overwhelming as the truth of it all starts to really hit home in real time as we're watching them. In London, this is the site on the Mall. Black cabs lining up silently to pay their respects to the Queen Elizabeth. A special woman and an extraordinary moment there. Look at that.
Yeah, in the centre of London, people are stopping for a moment at Piccadilly Circus. This is the Queen's image being displayed on that big screen there. It reads, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, 1926 to 2022. Such an icon, two icons of Britain there, Piccadilly Circus and the Queen herself.
It's a spot that many Australians will be familiar with, of course. So many Australian expats will be there absorbing this news right now. That is a place, of course, that will be very special to Australians, and now it holds even more significance as it is a moment of reflection on this very important day.
Absolutely, and Australians living here, of course, are still reeling from the news. The Queen is the only British ruler that most of us have ever known. Let's bring in politics reporter Fiona Willan, who's at Government House in Canberra. Good morning to you, Fiona. There's a lot happening behind the scenes. Can you talk us through the official reaction to the Queen's passing so far?
Yeah, Jane, there's been a steady stream of current and former leaders paying their respects today, starting with the Governor-General, because as the Queen's representative in Australia, it's his duty to inform Australians of her passing. David Hurley did that from Adelaide this morning before rushing back to Canberra, here to Government House, where he signed a condolence book. This is how he officially broke the news this morning.
When I reflect on my own memories, and she was my Queen for my entire life, I think of Her Majesty's dignity and her compassion, her dedication and her work ethic, and her selfless and unwavering commitment to those to whom she served, to us.
The Prime Minister has also paid his respects. Anthony Albanese signed a condolence book at Parliament House in which he wrote, Australia pays tribute to a life devoted to duty, family, faith and service that has brought such affection for Her Majesty over 70 years. He also made a statement on camera this morning, so let's listen to a bit of that now.
This is a loss we feel deeply in Australia. Queen Elizabeth II is the only reigning monarch most of us have known, and the only one to ever visit Australia. And over the course of a remarkable 7 decades, Her Majesty was a rare and reassuring constant amidst rapid change. Through the noise and turbulence of the years, she embodied and exhibited a timeless decency and an enduring calm. Her Majesty served our nation and the Commonwealth for 70 years.
And Fiona, Australians are marking their own grief in many ways today already.
Yeah, Jane, we're seeing flags flying at half-mast around the country. We're also seeing people leaving floral tributes. We've seen a number of people here at Government House come to leave flowers. They've been doing the same at Parliament House. Now, I should note that the Royals have actually suggested that people may wish to make a donation to charity instead of leaving floral tributes. Also, if you'd like to sign a condolence book, you can do that here at Government House in Canberra or at Parliament House. Each state will have their own arrangements too, and you can also do it online via the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet.
You don't have to do it today. Those books will be open for days. Fiona, what happens from now?
Look, there's no official period of mourning in Australia, but the next 14 days will be a period of observation, so we'll see a number of events take place. At 5 o'clock Eastern Time today at Parliament, there'll be a gun salute with a round for each year of Her Majesty's life. Then we'll hear from the Governor-General as he addresses the nation just before 7 o'clock. Then tomorrow there'll be a wreath-laying ceremony at Parliament House in which the Prime Minister, the Opposition Leader and the Governor-General will take part. And then on Sunday there'll be a proclamation ceremony at Parliament to welcome Charles as the King. That will be followed by a 21-gun salute. And then in the days ahead, the Prime Minister and the Governor-General will make their way to the UK for the funeral. And when they get back, that's when a national memorial service will be held here. And that will be a national day of mourning. But Jane, we don't yet have a date for that one.
OK, Fiona, thank you. Of course, a lot of these plans will have been in place for years, but it's not until it actually happens that people start realising, I suppose, the gravity of the situation and everything that it then flows onto.
And of course, the Queen herself would have had a hand in laying some of those plans for this occasion too. So we will see how this all unfolds as the days and weeks progress. But let's go now to Kari-Anne Greenbank at Balmoral, where the royal family is gathered tonight. Kari, the Queen was 96 years old, but still this has come as a shock to many.
Well, it has, Sylvia, that's right. I mean, she was 96 years old. We have had a year of this slow deterioration, I guess, with initially the mobility issues, then spending an overnight stay in hospital that was only reported to the media after the Queen had returned home. But then the ongoing cancellation of events and appointments, things the Queen could attend. But I guess there was this overarching sense that, you know, silly in a way, but perhaps she would last forever, perhaps she would last, you know, until 100, for example. Prince Philip lived until 99. But there has been this really significant sense of shock in Britain today. It started at around midday when Buckingham Palace put out that really unprecedented email saying that doctors were concerned about the Queen's health and that she was comfortable at Balmoral Castle. There were questions around why she hadn't been moved to hospital, the fact that they decided that it was better for her to stay at Balmoral Castle. Then hours later, Buckingham Palace again putting out a statement saying that the Queen had passed away. I mean, a lot of people are in shock. A lot of people also, I guess, there's this general sense of discomfort. I mean, the Queen has been on the throne. She's been reigning for 70 years. She's been in the background as this steady constant for almost all of our lives, Australians, Brits as well. And now she's gone. Just to put it into perspective, this was raised a couple of days ago when the Queen met with Liz Truss. She has reigned through 15 British Prime Ministers, starting with Winston Churchill, who was born in 1847. Liz Truss was born 101 years later, and the Queen has welcomed both of them to form government. So the Queen has been this remarkable legacy that she has left behind as the nation now grieves her loss.
And it seems extraordinary that she, you know, with everything she's gone through, she even survived COVID this year and yet still kept going and kept working through it and bounced back so quickly. So it is a real shock, as you said, Kari-Anne. But we know that the new king remains there right now in Balmoral. Do we have any idea when we may be hearing from him again?
Yeah, so at this stage, it is expected that Prince Charles will be making some form of a speech tomorrow at some stage, potentially around 6 o'clock at night, but that's yet to be confirmed. This is all part of the plan. So this is all part of Operation London Bridge. And it is likely to be a pre-recorded statement that is filmed and then released to the media. There are reports that there are considerations underway to get Prince Charles, now King Charles, to make this speech from Prince Philip's desk. So apparently Prince Philip's very special desk is being brought in for this occasion as a nice touch, a nice gesture for King Charles to make his speech from this desk. But as well as that, it's understood that he will be meeting with the Accession Council. He's expected to be meeting with the Prime Minister as well. So right now, Prince Charles, King Charles III and Camilla, Queen Consort Camilla, remain here at Balmoral Castle. Tomorrow is going to be a very big day. They're travelling back to London. And from that point on, 10 days of these remarkable procedures, turnout expected, hundreds of thousands of people turning out right across Scotland, particularly around England, as the Queen's body and her coffin is moved to London. But a massive 10 days to come. It can't be overstated.
Kari, we just saw footage of many vehicles arriving in Balmoral carrying members of the royal family. Do we have some clarity on which members of the family were able to be with the Queen before her passing?
Well, so Prince Charles, now King Charles, and Camilla, they were close by. So they were two of the first to arrive here at Balmoral Castle. Princess Anne, she was already staying here. She'd had some engagements in Scotland, so she was staying at this castle. So it is understood that they were able to be by the Queen's bedside, say their final goodbyes. There was a really strong rush for the other royals to get here in time. So there's this photo that shows Prince William, Prince Andrew, Edward and his wife Sophie in a car rushing from Aberdeen Airport here to Balmoral Castle. It is unclear at this stage whether they made it in time, whether they arrived in time to say goodbye to the Queen. It's also fairly certain that Prince Harry didn't make it in time because it is understood that he was still travelling here when Buckingham Palace put out that statement that the Queen had sadly passed away. So, yeah, not 100% clear at this stage. Hopefully, William, Andrew, Edward and Sophie made it in time. But certainly it is appearing Prince Harry wasn't able to say goodbye.
Kari-Anne Greenback, we'll leave it there. You're at Balmoral right now. Thank you so much for staying up late for us. But, you know, it is, I think, telling to see the rush from the other royals to get there, that how much of a shock it was, for not only for us as the world and as the Commonwealth, but for the royal family indeed, that she must have slipped very quickly into, you know, her passing.
Well, only 48 hours ago we saw Her Majesty swearing in her 15th British Prime Minister while looking frail, still in reasonably good health, you know, according to the pictures that were shared with us at the time. I suppose it was telling at the time perhaps that we only saw still photos, still images of that occasion.
And she had to cancel events after that, even though there were Zoom events.
Aftermath, yes. Yeah, and I think, you know, she did look frail in that photograph, but I think the photo, in a way, cheered a lot of people up because she still looked happy. She looked like the Queen that we know. And she was working, as you say, right up until her death. Such a life of duty. And that's one of the things that people are reflecting on so much today, that she really did give everything to the job, as it were. An unwavering commitment to the Crown and to her people, as she always promised. Stay with us. Our special coverage of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's death will continue across the afternoon as the world mourns the loss of Britain's longest reigning monarch.